Hi. Okay. So I guess let's start again. And at this point, it's just general Q&A about anything. I will answer one question already. There was a general question of, oh wait, if somebody wanted to join this thing, how would you join this thing? So we actually, as I mentioned, we actually do internships for undergraduate students and master's students who want to be involved with this, actually with the text chat part of the teaching. Or if your internet is really good and if you can get to the level to do the on-camera teaching, to do that too. So we have all of these available, but they are not generally advertised. So there's no job board. The way you apply is you just send me an email. That's on purpose. It's because if you put on a job board, you get a lot of applications. So instead, what we do is, generally speaking, people come in from the groups that might be a bit more skilled already in math, which usually aligns with the people who come from polytechnics. So if you want to know how to get in touch with me, my website is Po-Shen Loh.com, and if you look on that website, there's a place to contact me. And then, of course, if you want to apply it, yeah. Do not send an email to my cmu.edu address. That's the kind of email I'm on, because I don't get to read that one as much. There are too many mails that go into it. The secret contact is to go figure out. Yes. That one will contact something. That's hello@Po-Shen.com. Okay, but questions? And I want to use this time to make the most value for you. You don't have to ask questions about this topic. If you have questions about anything, as you can see by now, I like lots of things. Don't be shy. There are no bad questions. If there are less questions, I'll tell longer stories as answers to them. If there are more questions, I answer them faster. Don't be shy. If you'd rather not stand at a microphone, that's also okay, because I can come over and hear you. You just raise your hand.
Yeah, so...
Yes. You don't have to stand. Let me do this. I'd rather you don't come to the microphone, but I just say it loud, and I'll come over by you. I'll tell you why. It's because this morning I did it, and I can tell that some people didn't feel comfortable coming all the way up to stand at the microphone and ask the question, and that reduced the variety of questions. So I'll just come over. So I'll repeat the question so that everyone will know. Be as loud as you can.
Okay. So what you talked about this lecture is a lot of things you've been listening about. So coming from pure maths and then applying them to the universe, what's your ideal work-life balance?
Okay, what you said is all these things that I've been talking about are about coming from the pure math world to solve actual real-life problems. And you ask, how is the work-life balance? Well, yeah. The correct answer is, I really like what I do. If I wasn't working, I would be doing exactly the same thing. But there's also life. Fortunately, my wife also works with me on this. Every day when I go into the office, well, here I'm here, so I'm obviously not in the office. When I go in the office, she's over there. It's kind of nice. Well, it depends. Some people will not be able to handle that. But it depends. Everyone has different, different ways of managing relationships. But for us, we actually work together on this. It's actually something we're both very passionate about. We work very hard on this too. Also, I have kids. I have 3 kids. This high school program exists because of my oldest daughter. She's actually very good at it. My oldest daughter is one of the top 4 students in math in high school in the United States as of last year. So she was on the U.S. Women's Math team. But because of her and her friends, I could see that there were a lot of people who had very good math skills who would need other skills to really succeed at that. So my daughter, oldest daughter, was actually the very first high school student in the entire program. And she was one of the cornerstones of the program. At some point she'll graduate, of course, and go and tackle them back. Our middle son helps with the text chat behind the scenes stuff. He's also a technical guy. Our youngest daughter is 8. She's actually pretty smart. Not because of me. I don't teach her. I don't teach my kids. I only teach other people's kids. Okay? I only teach other people's kids. But in any case, she was sitting in our classes to evaluate, to see if can she understand. So the answer is I sort of just work and life are the same thing. I don't know if this makes sense. Now this is really rare, or maybe it works because somehow that's just the way we are. But then we can pour everything into this. Okay, but that's probably a weird answer. I guess let me give another angle on this, which is it is very important to make sure your mental health is solid. Every single person knows what they can do before things start falling off the rails, or before it gets better, right? You need to know that for yourself too. So I happen to know how far I can go, and I'll go to there without going too far. And it just so happens that my life circumstances make it so that I can run this particular way. I also want to say it's really fun to do this because I get to come to Philippines. This is fun. I mean, maybe I should also say, like, I love people, and the fact that this work involves lots of people just makes me happy. In some sense, it's like work is boring or not fun if it's not what you dream of, right? And for me, I'll say this particular trip is really interesting because I've never been to Philippines before. I only met people, and now I see there's way more people like them from where they came from, and they are all nice and hardworking. At least everyone I've met so far. So it's nice. Okay. Other questions? Yeah. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. I'll come over. No need to be shy. Yeah.
Actually, this I'm just a bit curious. Sometimes in the nature of operating properties of the park, sometimes we just use books that we what do you have anything to do creating products that is not are not really let's say tricky, not in the sense but that they are different.
Okay. If I understand your question correctly, what you said is sometimes you need to create problems for other people to do, and creating problems like textbook problems is easy but boring. How to create problems that are engaging and not boring. Is that your question? Yes. You're the guy who wants to be professor. So you need to do that. Well, actually, let me give you a warning. The warning is, depends on how you do that. If you do that, you need to warn your students that your questions that you're going to give them are creative and difficult. By the way, that's what I do, okay? I have a reputation in my university. Everyone knows if you're going to take discrete mathematics with me, it's going to be kind of tough. There are different professors who teach the exact same class. This is probably normal everywhere, right? If you take the version with me, it's going to be tough. Because before every test, I will give you all the problems I ever gave as test problems in the past history of me teaching the class. And then I'll guarantee you that this test will have 5 problems that are different from those. Okay? So of course the students say, how am I supposed to prepare for the test? Normally you prepare for the test by practicing the old ones that you have, the same ones with different numbers, right? But that's why I give all the old ones, because the answer is, well, just do all the old problems. By the time you're done, you can think of anything. You know, like by the time you're done, you can actually solve anything in there, right? So then the question, how do I come up with that? Well, what I do is I will often go and think about, some aspect of the problem. I'll think about something I'm curious about. Let me give you an exact example. This is what I'm proud of. So I teach combinatorics. And I was making a test problem, okay? And these questions don't have to be hard. I'm showing you an easy version. There's a harder version of it. But the easy version of the question I came up with was, well, also, I make my exam questions the night before the exam because of poor planning. But anyway, so I was staying up, okay, well, all right, so I was staying up late, and I was thinking, oh man, how do I do this? They learned about inclusion, exclusion. Inclusion, exclusion is where you want to know, you've got 3 sets, right? A, B, C, and each of them has some number of things inside it, right? Have you done these kind of questions before? And you want a formula for A, B, and B. Have you seen these kinds of things before? Yes. It's a standard formula, by the way. I'm not going to put it here, but it's like this. Since A, since B, since C, minus A, since B, minus B, plus A intersect B intersect C. Okay. That's the standard formula. Now, I did not want to make a problem called, here are some sets. The size of A is 5, the size of B is 2, the size of C is, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, and tell me the A union B union C. That's boring. I like to have people think about reason why things are true. So that night, as I was staying out late, I said, well, that's kind of fun, A union B union C. I wonder, what's the size of this? Okay, that's a different symbol. Actually, this symbol you don't use normally with sets. That's exclusive OR. What does exclusive OR mean? Exclusive OR means, actually, I have 3 of them in a row. If you just have 2 of them in a row, exclusive OR, this is A, and this is B. If I want to know what is A, exclusive or B, that's those 2. Is this somewhat familiar to people? This is also called disjoint union. But this is called exclusive OR because it's A or B excluding both. Right? You minus the A intersect B. Okay. Oh, by the way, the reason it's called, well, the reason you write with the plus sign is because if you represent your sets as vectors with zeros and ones over the binary field, you're just adding those vectors. That's all I'll say. But if you understand what that is, that's there. If you don't worry. Okay, then I wanted to know a formula for this. That was the question. Because I wanted to know. You know what I mean? I was like, oh. Because if you want to know a formula for this, you could make one. That's a creative problem, right? Like, it's just like, I'm curious. That's how I made it engaging. I was like, what would I want to know? Can I make another problem where, by the way, if you want to prove the A union B union C thing, you prove that by sort of saying, well, let's take all of the A, all of the B, all of the C. I got too much. Now you take away some stuff, right? And you add back some stuff. So then, okay, this problem, you do it also by doing the same thing, right? So I got the A, B, and the C. So I should start with the A plus the B plus the C, right? Then what should I do? Well, if I did that, I counted this one once, this one once, this one once. Is this making sense? I counted each of these twice, and I counted each of these 3 times. Well, that one 3 times. So then what do I need to do? Actually, let's do this problem because it's fun. There's something going on here. Then what do? I need to take away some stuff. But A exclusive or exclusive, oh, I should say what is the 3 wise exclusive OR. 3 wise exclusive OR. 3 wise exclusive OR actually will be taking the A exclusive OR B and then exclusive ORing the C. So this, and then now I need to take anything which is in the shaded part or in the C, but not in both. What that does is it basically makes it so that I need to pick up all of this C, I need to pick up this part of the C, and I need to take away those 2. Does that make sense? Because those are the repeated ones. By the way, A exclusive OR, B exclusive OR C is also all of the points, all of the parts that are covered an odd number of times. That's also true. Okay? Now, if I want to get this picture, how much do I need to subtract? I have 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3. That's the number of times I've covered. I need to subtract some stuff off now. I need to subtract not just A intersect B, but double it, right? I better subtract off 2 of them. Because that's going to let me cancel away the 2. And I'm also going to subtract 2, B intersect C. Subtract 2, C intersect A. If I do that, what happens to these numbers? Well, the 2's drop to 0s. But what happens to the 3? What does the 3 become?
Negative 3.
It becomes negative 3. Because I dropped it by 6. Right?
Yes.
Okay, so what do I need to add back? A intersect B intersect C. 4. Then I said, what's going on here? 1, 2, 4. Huh? Wait, what's this one? This is A plus B minus how much? 2. What? 1, 2, 4, 8. There's another formula here, by the way. Fun exercise from home. Prove that if you do this for n. That was the bonus question. That was the bonus question. This all began by saying, I wonder what would happen here. And I got 1 minus 2, 4. Actually, 1 minus 2, 4. This minus sign. 1 minus 2, 4 minus 8. These are powers of minus 2. Okay, that's how I came up with the question. It's cool. You should try it. I mean, you should try the problem. Don't do it now, because now we can ask questions. But like, and actually, by the way, the reason this was a good test question is that the standard proof for the n case of inclusion and exclusion proves this one to be minus 2 to the power of an exclusive or. Of course, you have to twist it, but that's like a textbook problem. Just be curious. I think maybe that's the lesson. Be curious. Like, be like, oh, I wonder if that's true. And if you're curious, other people will be curious. But don't make the problem interesting by just explaining that there are some chickens and there's some rabbits and there are cage or something. That's not making it like real world with like some chickens and apples and whatever. That doesn't make me excited. Okay, maybe you can tell this makes me excited, not the words of the chickens and whatever. Okay. Yeah. Other questions? Yeah, follow up. I'm going to come over. Yeah, follow up.
I have a follow-up. How many got that?
How many got this? A decent number got this. I put this at the very end of the test, so this is now the challenge problem. And I see a decent number, I'm like, the first part, this part, I don't know, probably like, see, it was late in the test, so that's a bad example. But maybe like 20% of the people got it? That's a lot because it's late in the test. Oh, I should explain, my test had 5 questions. They're all hard. They're all hard. If you get like, if you get 3 or 4 of them right, you have an A. If you get 2 right, it's a B. If you get 1 right, it's a C or something like that. So they're all hard. They're all hard. By the way, getting 1 right is hard. But that's how this works. So that's why this was towards the answer as a bad example. But basically, anyone who got there, you know, I'm thinking what's the right answer to give you? Like the raw percent who got it right, or the conditional probability you got it right, given that you got to the previous one. Do you know what I mean? It's like, if you attempted it, you basically got it. If you didn't attempt it, this part, you didn't get it. But at the same time, conditional probability is a bad example. Because if you got that far in the test, you basically can do tons of stuff. Yeah? So I would say this is fun, where let me back it all the way to say, if hypothetically, I put this as question 1, I expected in my class, this first part, it should have been like 90% of the people would have done that, the first part. Of just like find the right these right coefficients. Because this is like figure out the numbers. The proof part, if I told everyone to do it, probably the fraction that would get the proof part right would be about 30%. Maybe 40%, 30-40%. I also like challenging. You can see the style of what I like to do is you want to learn how to work on hard things. And the interesting thing about my class is that even though everyone knows it's going to be harder, whenever I teach it, they need to, well, they ask me if they can, and I say, of course, they need to relax the limit on number of students in the class. We busted through the limit twice in enrollments for the upcoming semester. So there'll be like 120 people in the class. Normally it's like 30 or 40. So somehow people want it spicy, if that makes sense. So you know what I mean? It's like you go to a restaurant and you can get spicy food sometimes, and they say, how spicy you want the food. My version is going to be the very spicy version. But you learn stuff. You learn stuff. Okay. Yeah. As you can see, I can talk about anything. Yeah, I'm going to come over here. Yeah. Always, whenever you raise your hand up. Yeah.
I'm just curious about the introductory task that you have mentioned earlier. Have you ever tried applying it in a more heterogeneous class, like non-math beat, so to speak? And what were the results?
Okay. So you're asking about using these techniques, these teaching techniques, in a class which is more heterogeneous, not only people who are really interested in pushing forward. And what specific methods are you curious about?
I mean, the general conduct of that particular approach.
The general kind of the approach where we say, hey, you brainstorm ideas and tell me, right? I have tried, because I care about everyone. So actually, this trip I'm here because I'm on winter break, so I can go long distance and get back home before my class. During normal semester, I only have 1 or 2 days for weekend trips. Every weekend I go to a different city. During the week, I also want to go into schools, like actual schools. My classes, like not every day of the week, but there's only 1 day gap, so I'll take day trips to cities like Baltimore. And actually, over the last semester, I was actually giving math classes in Baltimore, where I would go and stand in front of a 6th or 7th grade classroom in some very difficult neighborhoods. Very difficult neighborhoods. To give an idea, these are schools where, in order to enter the door, there is a metal detector to make sure you are not bringing in something which is not good, right? So I do this too. I do this because I care about everyone, right? Now when you're going, you find out that in those difficult neighborhoods, if you say, hey everyone, you brainstorm your idea, I give you feedback. The problem is that there are some people who will not brainstorm anything because they don't even want to be there in the first place. Okay? And that's why sometimes the way that education works is, all right, if you're not going to brainstorm, let's at least make sure you see it and you can do it. And I respect that. That's why there's a place for that. But let me tell you why I went to those neighborhoods. I went to those neighborhoods because I could see, as I started doing it, you can see the eyes and faces of people you're talking to. You can see that some people, when you walk in, they see and they say, wait, there's someone who's actually trying to help pull me out. You see, the thing is that in every area, there are people who say, this is just my life, I'm stuck here. There are also people who say, I want to get out. And I will do whatever it takes to get out. And you can see them. That's what I mean by hard work. Sometimes you can see them. And what you see is that in these places sometimes, there are people who wish they could use learning to get out, but they can't learn because the teacher has to spend all of the time asking people to please be quiet. And then you can't teach either. So then those people get stuck. It's basically that there are people you can see, they want to fly, they are stuck because there's not a way to do so, and there's no education that they can easily access, right? That's where we come in. These classes, since I now have so many high school students who are trying to be part of this program, we have scholarships that go out into those areas, and those are paid for by philanthropists, people who are donating money in the U.S. to go and help to rebalance the way the U.S. is. The U.S. is an interesting country. There's the income distribution, or the money distribution is not that equal, right? And so what's going on is that there are people donating these scholarships. And so what we do is we go and find the people who actually want to work hard, who already want to work hard, who already think that through education that they can work hard, right? Then we pull them into these online classes. This is starting this semester, so we don't have an exact quantitative report yet of what happens here. But my estimation is this should work pretty well. Because what we're doing is we're suddenly isolating out the group which actually wants to brainstorm and actually wants to think. And then we're giving them the ability to do so. Presumably, that should help them learn way, way, way better than they could before. We're not solving the problem for people who don't want to learn. I view that as a much bigger, deeper, general problem. But what I'm saying is, if you actually want to learn, let's help you learn. And of course, I'm trying to make a point with that. We're trying to make a statement with that. We're trying to make an impact with that by showing, hey, look at what happened a few years later. Those people wanted to learn. Look where they are now. And And by the way, it's fair. You want that too? There's an easy solution. Learn. It's a free country. You learn, right? I don't know, but hopefully we can make some kind of a change. A change in people wanting to learn. And then more people want to learn? Oh great, more classes. Right? This is why the big breakthrough here was making it possible to remotely deliver instruction at extremely high level, teaching you how to think, no matter where you live. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, because it just reminded me of the one of the tasks that we usually give our students. Okay, it's called an anchor task, similar to what the Singapore has. Which here's how it works in your situation. But I have a follow-up question. How do you craft your questions for those kinds of kids? Like,
How do we do what?
Your math questions.
How do you adjust the math questions?
Yes.
You mean for the kinds of kids whose backgrounds are not as strong but they're
Yes,
still motivated?
I doubt that they will be able to answer that kind of question.
Oh yeah, of course, of course. So the answer is we just adapt to whoever we're teaching. And I do this because I know how to do this because when I go into that classroom, there's a reason I go into that classroom, is to understand what kind of math level are we talking about, right? And you go and find out there's all kinds of knowledge gaps. But the important thing here is not to say you have to do this hard question. Actually, every one of our questions, we teach middle school stuff, this is college. But all of our middle school stuff, we break every question into smaller mini challenges. For a standard speed class, we would go through a certain amount of content in 1 hour. We don't care how long it takes to go through the content. We only care that during the time we're going through it, the people are challenged. And so we already have a history of adjusting the speed at which we go through the content, just to be like, so make sure you get it. And never is there something which is so big of a leap that you never get there, right? So we're just expecting to adjust the speed to go as slow as you need. And we expect that at the beginning, we'll probably slow down a lot, but I also expect that as we keep going, these people are probably going to fill in all those gaps and go much faster. Again, because of motivation, does that make sense? I find it particularly fun to work with people who actually are pretty motivated, because if you give someone motivated opportunity, well, you go far. You go really far. Of course, one of our goals is that we want to see results that exceed people who are from more fortunate backgrounds, which don't necessarily have that motivation, right? So that would be a very powerful statement. It's like, you know what's important, right? It's just the motivation to work hard. Any questions?
Maybe while waiting for questions, there are also some questions during registration.
Sure.
So let me read one of them. How can we use mathematics to contribute in the fight against local and even national and global disinformation efforts?
Yes. I care about that a lot. So how do you use this mathematics to fight that? I would say, I like to teach people how to think. It's not necessarily that I'm teaching them sine of 2x is 2 sine x cosine x. Right? Okay, that's true, but the thinking is more valuable. So I think if you just teach more people how to think, it will be very powerful to break disinformation, because then people actually think. You see, I'll put it this way. When some people learn math, and you ask them afterwards, why is this true? Sometimes they tell you, because the teacher said so. That is not okay. In math, that is not okay. Because in math, there's a reason why everything is true. So if everyone learns to go learn math where you think about things, where you have to brainstorm, where you get the feedback, and you find out that everything boils down to some facts, well then, you don't just listen to what the teacher says. In which case, it's much harder to fool you with misinformation. Misinformation is a problem when people just follow what some teacher told them, and they just believe it because they want to believe the teacher. I basically feel that misinformation is the product of people not being comfortable thinking abroad. That's exactly what I want to get. Now, so basically by asking that question, we found my secret motive of what I'm trying to do here, which is to just make a whole population of people who actually like thinking. Other questions? Yes, I can move. Don't be shy. was the toughest class that you had? How were you able to overcome it? English class. Oh, you were math class. Okay. Do other people agree? By the way, I do want to tell you that English class is super important, because if you can tell what I do now, it's basically English. Okay, and so it's very, very important. The hardest math class. I think for me, I never found any particular math class to be hard. And that's because I made sure I didn't take too many of them at the same time. I mean, I'm serious. Like, if you take only one math class, you probably can learn it. If you take 2 math classes, maybe you can learn that too. I didn't take 3 math classes at the same time. I just spread the classes over the time. Okay? And I also did a master's degree. I was not in a big hurry. I just kind of would take classes and try to really understand them. You see, the thing is, if you're learning a college math class in a way where you say, okay, why is it true? Because it's true, because somehow it's true. And you start to mold the knowledge of theoretical math in your head of, yeah, it's probably right, or it is right, why it says somewhere in the book, then you don't have anything solid after a while. Because everything, why is it? I don't know. Okay? So if you take less math classes, then you don't have that problem. And when you don't have that problem, then math gets easier. Yeah, follow-up question. Sorry?
You've reversed it.
I've reversed it.
Yeah, I've reversed because I'm professor.
What were you asking? What's the hardest class I've taught?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said the hardest class I've taken. The hardest class I've taught. Well, I don't know. It's probably just. I try to make my classes easy. What I mean by that is I try to make it so that you understand, right? Like that's what I'm trying to say. Actually, see, this is the thing. If I'm teaching a class and people don't understand, you know what I do? Slow down. so sort of my goal is when I teach a class, everyone actually understands. Maybe the hardest one, if you want to call it that, is some graduate class in combinatorics. So that's the highest level of contact. But everyone understands it. So it's not that hard after all. You see, here's the deal. When you're teaching a class, or when you're trying to communicate information, there might be a very long proof, right? So, okay, that's the class I've taught with the longest proofs, because it's a graduate class. But whenever I'm teaching a proof, I like to think, how does that proof come together? What are the main ideas for it? And actually, the way I teach proofs is also weird. So I can tell you how I teach my graduate class. Like when I teach the graduate class, I'll say, here's a theorem. I think this is the theorem. We might be missing a few conditions, because I actually forgot. Let's try to prove this. Anyone have ideas? And then I just go and crowdsource ideas, and we spend 45 minutes hearing ideas of how to prove this theorem and proving it together, because my class has about 20 people in it. They're pretty good, and we usually manage to prove the theorem. You know, that means that everyone also understands it, because it was their ideas. Along the way, we might find out, oh man, I wish there was an extra statement that the function is continuous. Okay, let's add that. Function is continuous. Do you know what I mean? It's like, whenever you look at a complicated theorem statement, in my head, there's always the important part, and the details, like the fine print. Does that sort of make sense how I say that? It's like, there's the main deal, and there's the fine print. I care about the main deal, and we add the fine print as we find out where the proof falls apart. And sometimes I will know there's a way to overcome that fine print. Okay, let's delete the fine print and let's figure out how. But the way I like to teach the class is that the students drive the class. And if we take 2 days to prove the theorem, we take 3 days to prove the theorem. But the goal is to have that the proof was driven by the ideas from the students. Actually, when I do the proofs, it doesn't say theorem, proof, blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay guys, tell me ideas. And someone says, okay, maybe we should use the fact that when you have a bunch of sets and all the sizes are even, well then the sum of all the sizes is even. Okay, then I write 1. Sum of even numbers is even. Any other ideas? Someone says something else, I put 2. And the board just fills up with ideas which are not saying this, and then this, and then this, and then this. It's just, we have lots of boards, so it just fills lots of boards. And then after a while, people say, oh, use idea number 3, and idea number 7, and then add this thing, and now we got it. So that's what I do. But that's because I'm trying to teach my graduate students, teach the graduate students how to come up with how to solve a problem. Yeah, so that's why I guess I just don't ever think of myself as teaching a hard class. They're all easy, because we make sure everyone can understand. Other questions? Can be about anything. Leave a question. We're at 4:47, so we're at the last 10 minutes or so. Yeah.
Actually, I remember you mentioned earlier about how communication is important for do you believe that for any university, they should all, even though they have their own reports, these are not their general education projects? So some universities do not offer a general education project. I just
Okay. His question was, I seem to think communication is important. Do I think that universities should offer general education courses in addition to the major, instead of just the major? I think what you're saying is that some universities, just the major course is enough, you get a degree, and some universities you also have to take general education courses. What's my opinion about that? So I think general education is important to do. I also think that whether there are requirements or not, you can choose sometimes to go and take them. But I also think that the communication I'm talking about is not taught in most universities. It's taught in the improvisational comedy theaters. In the United States, the way to take the improv comedy classes is either, if you're a high school student, I think, or the way I took it is I went to Google and looked for improv comedy classes. And it turns out that in America, these theaters, these comedy theaters, they don't make enough money selling tickets to their shows. So they teach classes. And the classes are affordable. So I took those. So my point is, if you want to pick up those skills, go directly to the performers. Not only the English department. Right? Take the general education as it is. But if you actually want to learn performance skills, you need to go and spend some time with people who actually perform. And believe it or not, sometimes we're looking for more ways to supplement the income to run the entire building. Right? When I say don't earn enough, they have a building. The building has rent. They need to pay for it. And if they only have people come to the show, they don't earn enough to pay for the rent. So they need to also have classes. If you are raising that.
Maybe let me ask another
Yes.
question from the registration. So, what is your study regimen?
Study regimen. So when I was a student, I made sure I took less courses so I can actually study. Study regimen was very simple. When you read the math book, if there's a theorem statement and then a proof, you read the theorem statement, you make sure you understand the theorem statement, and then you close the book and try to prove it yourself. For like an hour. If it doesn't work, you open the book again. And then you look exactly halfway. Oh, actually, by the way, I would also look at the length of the proof. If the length of the proof was short, I would know I don't need that many ideas. If the proof is medium, I'll need some ideas. If the proof is 2 pages long, oh boy, it's going to be crazy. Okay, because how you come up with everything. But you try anyway. And if you don't succeed after about an hour, you open the book again, you look exactly halfway in the solution, in the proof, and you read a bunch of sentences until you get an idea of some concept that is important in the middle, or some middle lemma or middle step that's true. Then you close it again. Then you try to go from the beginning to that step, and from that step to the end. If that doesn't work after an hour, you look at 25%. This is called binary search. Eventually it works. Right? Eventually you find enough, eventually you can do it. But then at that point, the proof will make sense. Because then you'll know why in the world that epsilon equals f inverse of 3 divided by 7 plus delta. Delta equals this thing plus epsilon. But like, do you know what I mean? Like some of these analysis proofs is like, why? Has anyone ever had this feeling? Yes, that's backwards. That's the last step. That's also why when I teach the proofs in the graduate class, that's the last thing that comes. It's always let delta equals, like, we don't know yet. We'll figure it out, guys. Let's just keep going. Oh, that's what it should be, and then you'll put it there, right? So this is my general regimen for learning math whenever I need to learn new math. If it was physics, same deal, to graduate. If it's computer science, make the program by looking at Stack Overflow, see how everyone else does it. But after you get the code, you make sure you understand what every single line and every single symbol does. If there's a semicolon and it's supposed to be a comma, what does it do? You should know. You Google. Don't just be like, oh, it seems to work. No. You might like break something in the weirdest case, right? So my study regimen is those. Those are for technical subjects. For non-technical subjects called people, it's called spend more time with people. Spend time with people, understand people, help people, and then you got other stuff. Great. No, you don't like it. Do you like to run another one? Or not? Yeah?
So maybe we can have one last question,
One last, yeah.
or if not,
There's one last one here. Let's do it. Okay, I'm going to come up. Yeah?
Is there any other way to communicate recently to other non-math as possible layman's terms?
He said, is there any other way to communicate math to people other than math papers? And you said another word called impossible. Did you say because they're impossible to parse?
Possibly in layman's terms.
Possibly in layman's terms. Okay, yes. Any way to communicate math other than math papers, possibly in layman's terms, right? You want to make the math of some, well, it depends what you're teaching. If you're teaching something pretty complicated, it will take a long time to go down to layman's terms. But in general, the question you asked is real. Because when you write a research paper, you sort of put all the details in and you make the epsilon equals, the delta equals the whatever epsilon at the front, because nobody writes the paper with a blank and says, now you see it's over there, right? So you basically, a paper is a completely, you took a nice intuition, you completely compressed the intuition and cranked it around, and now it's correct, but the intuition is not visible. Whenever I write a paper, I start by saying, before we go into the proof, here's the intuition, this is the main idea, we're going to do this, and then now you're going to see it inside the structure, like a word. That's the paper stuff. Other things that people can do, some people try to make YouTube videos. Or just like explain something. Now that might not be how you explain research results, but you might see there's this guy called 3 Blue 1 Brown. He's phenomenal. Those are proofs, by the way, right? He's showing you proofs, insanely good visualization. The guy's great. So I'm just explaining, I think if I wanted to do something like that, I would actually use videos on YouTube, because that is the richest form of media that we can make. The only problem is it's very time consuming. Actually, it's not. You can learn how to use Manual. The library he uses, Python library, Manual. I actually was just talking to a guy in Hong Kong a few days ago. He's from Bangladesh. He was from the Bangladesh Olympiad team. And these days he's been trying to make some math videos of his own. And he showed me something that he had made using Manual. Pretty sophisticated. He was teaching inversion, then he did these Olympiad stuff. And what he did, it was so neat, the things moving everywhere. I asked him, how long does it take for you to make one of these? He said, like, a day or two. I was like, whoa. You know, the kind of stuff is amazing, but apparently that library, if anyone's ever tried it before, is like insanely powerful. So I would just say, try 3 Blue 1 Brown and figure out what he does, because he does things well. With that, let's wrap. I'll be happy to stay in front if anyone wants to chat individually. Nice to meet you all. If you want to get in touch with any of the stuff that I do, like internships or whatnot, look me up there, send it to them.